For those of you who don't know, I am Karen Dunne-Squire, and I'm the MD of this business here, which is called Elate. Come in, ladies, grab a chair. And I'm assuming that most of you have come today because you are either currently leading a team or would like to be leading a team of high-performing individuals. Is that fair? Yeah? Ladies look like, yes, very serious about this. Good. So what I'm going to talk with you about today is about how culture impacts on the performance of a team. I do a huge amount of work with managers, sales leaders, teaching them and working with them on how to make their teams more impactful and more effective. And now I'm absolutely certain that anyone here who's been on any kind of management training will be really familiar with lots of different leadership techniques, ideas about the kind of leadership behaviours that motivates teams. These are leadership practices that we all have some experience and knowledge of, typically, if we've worked in the management environment. What typically tends to be missing, in my opinion, from a lot of the good leadership work that people do, is this idea of creating culture. Is this idea of creating an environment in which people can thrive. When we're leaders, we tend to look at ourselves, we tend to look at our behaviours, our techniques, our practices, and we let that dictate how effective we are. But actually, a massive amount of the work that I do is about creating culture for success. It's about making sure that leaders and business owners know exactly what they need to do to create an environment in which people will thrive. Okay, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to share with you some ideas around culture, what business culture is, what it means, and then I'm going to give you some very specific tools that I use in businesses to actually embed a culture that creates high performance. So ready for that? Good. Okay, so first of all, I want to talk about actually what does culture mean. It's such an ambiguous word, isn't it, culture? Particularly when we apply it to a business, it's a little bit of a mystery. You know, if I asked you all to tell me right now what is business culture, I'd probably get about 100 different answers. Do we agree? Yeah? There is no really clearly perceived understanding of exactly what business culture is. So what I'd like you to do is to think about the business that you work in as a human body. Yeah, I want you to think about it like a person, a real existing, living, breathing person. Yeah? The body of that person is your operations, is your logistics, is your processes. That's what you do. Yeah? The heart and soul of the person, that's your culture. Yeah? It's the heart and soul, the relationship that you have with your employees and the relationship that they have with you. And that's what your culture is. It's the things that come together to build up what it feels like to work with your business. Let me tell you what some of those things are. So we're talking about the beliefs that the business have. We're talking about the way that it believes its staff should conduct themselves, and the intentions that it has around the team that it works with. We're talking about values. We're talking about the specific values that you have defined for your business. Yeah? And if you haven't defined values for your business, please do. Because they tell your employees about what their expectations are when they work with you, about what it means to work with you. It's also about the rituals that exist in your organisation, the way that you do things, the processes and activities that your business has, and what they look like. We also talk, when we think about culture, about the style of your business. Now, I wonder if I asked all of you what style does your business have, whether you'd actually be able to define that. Probably not a question we ask ourselves very much. But the style is about the kind of way that it looks and feels, yeah? The way the business dresses itself, yeah? That's about the style that it emanates and gives out to people. And I want you to think about big brands that you know, that we know have really excellent positive cultures. Brands like Google, brands like Facebook, brands like Innocent Fruit Smoothies, yeah? These brands all have a style, don't they? There's a sense of what it feels like. John Lewis, yeah? It's really important to try to define that. Then additionally, we move on and we start to think about tone. What's the tone of voice of your business? How does it articulate itself to people, internally and externally? And we do a lot of work here around treating your employees like your customers. Yeah? Very few businesses do an absolutely excellent job of treating their employees like their customers. And if you think about the way you talk to your staff, the way that you share information with your staff, the environment you expect your staff to exist in, If that is exactly something that you would be prepared to expose your customers to and be proud of it, then you're starting to get somewhere towards a culture in which people can thrive. And then the final part of this recipe is about the behaviours. Yeah? The final part of the thing that builds up the culture within your business, the heart and the soul of your business, is about the behaviours. And this is not just the way that people behave within the business, it's the type of business that the organisation is prepared to tolerate. Yeah? And we've all worked, I'm sure, in businesses where there's been some bad conduct and that's been tolerated, or where underperformance has been tolerated. Many people have experience of that. Businesses who allow poor behaviour in their organisation are setting a negative culture for people to work in. So when we're thinking about this heart and soul and what is your culture, it's these 6 things pulled together to create the relationship that employees have with the business and vice versa. So now we know what culture is all about, what's the impact of it? So the reality is that if you're going to spend time in your business actually doing a cultural change program, and you're going to start ensuring that you have a culture that drives success, that can be a long piece of work. Yeah? If you're a fledgling business right now, you can begin to define that today. If you're an established business with a large team and you're looking to change culture and move it from the place it is now to a very, very different place, that's a project. It's a project that takes a lot of buy-in and a lot of planning. So why bother? Yeah? The reality is that businesses the world over have thought long and hard about what does culture mean to us. And I'm going to give you some examples of organisations who have done an awful lot of thinking about what culture means. And there are many more that I couldn't even possibly fit on this slide. These are all organisations, national, international, small, online, offline. Everyone who influences the business community has written or commissioned writing or pieces of research about what culture does in a business. And it is absolutely evident from all of that research that the positive culture within an organisation impacts directly on the performance of that organisation. Businesses who have cultures in which people are happy to exist have not only high performance, they have great staff retention, they're able to acquire talent much more effectively. Yeah? Successful people want to work in a place that nurtures them. So building a positive culture is absolutely fundamental to having a successful business. What we know from all of this research is that the motivation for why we do a task directly impacts on the outcome and the success of that task. And we know that the why we do it, the reason that compels us to do a piece of work, absolutely dictates how well done that piece of work is. And we know as well that there are 3 key motivators for us to deliver high quality work. And they are play, purpose, and potential. And I want to talk to you about those 3 things. If we are delivering our piece of work for a play motivator, we're doing it because we absolutely love doing it. Yeah? We really enjoy doing that piece of work. And some people might say teachers, for example, certainly a happy, successful teacher, they're often motivated by play. They love doing what they do. Yeah? It's very exciting work for them and they enjoy their days. People who are motivated by play will deliver you strong outcomes. The second motivator, the purpose motivator. That's a motivator where someone is very engaged with the outcomes. Yeah? That is when someone does a piece of work because they do it with purpose. They do it because they believe they add value by delivering that piece of work. And you may say that there's vocational activities such as bereavement counselling, those type of pieces of work. There's a huge level of satisfaction in doing that work. Not necessarily a play motivator. Those people mightn't say that they thoroughly enjoy and have fun doing what they do, but they're motivated by purpose because they know they add value. And then the final motivator is the potential motivator. And that is when we do a piece of work because we know it's going to take us somewhere or get us something that we really want in our life. A promotion, an enhanced skill set, a pay rise. We know that doing that thing right now will get us something that we really want in the future. And those are the 3 motivators that will guarantee a positive outcome and a good quality piece of work. And businesses that are clever about creating their cultures create a culture where people work for one or ideally all of those reasons. I'm incredibly lucky. I'm motivated by all three of those things in my job. I absolutely love what I do. I believe it adds value, and I know it's going to take me to the career place that I want to end up in. And because of those three things, I believe that's why my business is successful. Because I have those motivators, so the quality of the work that I'm able to deliver is better. Can everyone recognise that without those motivators, there's very little reason to invest in doing your best? So, when I'm working with businesses to help them understand how to build a really high-performing culture, I'm helping them to understand how they can create those motivators in their organisation. Let me talk to you about how. So we call this the Elate Your Teams process, for very obvious reasons. It'll take a branding genius to think that one up. We have a recipe that I've devised when I work with organisations, a 4-ingredient recipe that are the 4 ingredients to cultural success. And what they are looking to do is to bring about total motivation. Whether that's for play, purpose or potential, depends on the business, depends on the individual. But we're looking to create an environment in which we have total motivation for everyone who works within it. And the 4 areas that we look at to identify whether a business is delivering an environment that will allow that are, number 1, functional surroundings. Yeah? So we need to make sure that the individuals in your team have a place and an environment that they can work in that's fit for purpose. Second area is consistency of expectations. Do I know what I'm doing and do I know what I'm getting when I work with the business? Thirdly, we look at community and acceptance. We look to understand whether there's the right type of team integration within the business in order that a person can thrive. And the 4th building block, really, of this cultural piece is respect and engagement. Yeah? So I want to talk about these things in some detail now. When I'm asking businesses to do cultural reviews, or I'm working with businesses to carry one out myself, the first thing that we do is we assess where the business is currently in these areas. And if your business is 5 minutes old or 50 years old, this is still an activity that you can do. Think about these building blocks and understand how are you delivering. Let's look at them in detail. So how would we do this cultural assessment? Let's first think about the kind of things you need to consider. So, functional surroundings. One of the really interesting things to think about here is about the difference between your home and your workplace. And I want you to think about that in your head right now. I'm assuming that for almost everybody in this room, your home is a slightly warmer, more pleasant, more inviting place to be than your working environment. It's probably got much more soft furnishings and nice pictures and things surrounding you that you enjoy and aesthetically please you. Yeah? We spend more time in our workplace than we do at home, and yet our work environments are so alien from the place that we would choose to be in terms of its decor. Yeah? That's very important, because if you're in an environment that you are very, very comfortable in, you are going to perform better. So when I'm asking businesses to think about functional surroundings, yes, I'm asking them to think about, are the surroundings fit for purpose? Is the lighting correct? Is the furniture comfortable? Is the heating and cooling systems correct? Are there adequate refreshments? Are there adequate sanitary facilities? All of these basic things. But I'm also asking them to think about decor and layout and how does it look aesthetically? Yeah? Is that environment that's surrounding those individuals functional? I want you to also apply this to any external teams you have. Yeah? For your field sales teams, their vehicles, their technology, that is the surroundings that you give them. So you need to think about, where are your staff working, and is this a place that makes them feel valued? So we think sensibly about these functional surroundings. The next area of those building blocks is about consistency of expectations. What do I mean by that? I mean a lot of different things. I mean, number 1, are they being asked to do the job that they were recruited to do? Yeah? How many times have you heard of somebody, or had it even happen to you? You apply for a job, you go through the interview, you turn up, and on day 1 it's not the job that you thought you were going to get. We've all heard that story, haven't we? Yeah? That lack of consistency of expectations destroys any kind of loyalty or ability to deliver effectively. So those kind of expectations are key. There's also a big piece here around clarity of communications. Our expectations set clearly of people, that people understand what they need to achieve. There's also a piece here around quality. Yeah? Are your customers being delivered exactly what they purchase in a high quality way. You know, if your staff see that you are not delivering effectively to the end user, that degrades loyalty. Yeah, so this piece here around consistency of expectations is around stability and security. It's around, do they get paid on time? Are their expenses processed effectively? When they're told they're going to have a one-to-one, do they get it, or is it always cancelled at the last minute? This is about knowing that the company does exactly what it says it's going to do, both internally and externally. And you will be amazed, many businesses I work with will book one-to-ones with their staff and then cancel them the day before, the hour before. These sound like very, very small things, but these are all sending messages to your staff that that's not important, that you don't do what you say you're going to do. And that creates what I call a race for the bottom. Because actually, if you don't do what you say you're going to do, then neither will your staff, and so they'll start underperforming for you. Okay, the next area that we look at is community and acceptance. And this is about not just all the big stuff like do we have effective team working, and these are things that everyone is always thinking about in their business, but this idea of, do I feel like the people I'm working with acknowledge me? Am I visible? Do I get a birthday card on my birthday? Yeah, when I arrive into work, do people say good morning to me? And often when I say that, loads of people in the room laugh. Of course we say good morning. You'd be astonished. The amount of businesses that I work in, and between the hours of 8:30 and 9:30, the entire team arrive, sit down at their desks, begin their work, and there's not a single hello or good morning in the whole room. Yeah? Being recognised, being acknowledged when you are working in a business, thank yous, all those type of things, all contribute to this idea of community and acceptance. And when we normally talk about teamwork, people normally think about the big hitters like, do we do team socials? And they are important. But it's the small things that happen every single day in your business that say whether that is an environment of community and acceptance or not. And in fact, you could have a staff social every month and still not have a culture of community and acceptance in your business. So it's about the smaller behaviours and activities that you observe. Yeah, I've got one of my clients who's got the most effective culture that I've ever worked in. It's absolutely exceptional. They have whiteboards all over the office where they write celebrations for people's names. They've got a chalkboard in the kitchen where they acknowledge people's birthdays, people's children's birthdays, so people feel like they're noticed and they're acknowledged when they're there. Touches like that are really powerful. And then this final one here is about respect and engagement. So this is all the simple things that you would think about. Do we have good conduct? Do we speak to each other respectfully in a decent fashion? Do we have good HR policies? All of that kind of process stuff sits in here. There's also a big piece here around creating a culture of feedback. And I talk a lot with my clients about embedding a culture of feedback. And what I mean by that is an environment in which every time somebody excels, they are praised, and every time they underdeliver, they are corrected. Yeah? Now that kind of culture is incredibly powerful. And it's powerful not only because we need to correct underperformance, we all know that, right? It's also powerful because high performers, really, really ambitious people, really successful people want to be developed. They want to be challenged. They want to be corrected. They want that from you. Yeah, really successful people will be much more happy in an environment where they are constantly being corrected. I'll give you an example of this idea of how a culture of feedback works. I assume many people in the room can drive, right? Yeah? The best example of a culture of feedback is a driving instructor. The best one. Everyone who remembers their driving lessons, you get in the car on day one, and the chap or lady teaches you about how the gears work, yeah? Teaches you about the steering wheel, teaches you how to indicate, all of that basic stuff, yeah? Then you begin doing it. Every time you corner nicely and you change gear smoothly, they praise you, don't they? Well done, that's great, perfect, keep up the good work. Every single time you make a mistake, you forget to indicate, you forget to look in the mirror, you don't change up, you don't brake soon enough, they correct you. Every time. And eventually you become a good enough driver to pass your test. Without that correction, you would not become a good driver. You would not have passed your test, and some awfully dangerous things would have happened along the way. Be far few of us in the world, I expect, without that correction. But we don't do that in business. Not nearly enough. Every single time somebody makes a mistake, we correct them. Because that's what makes them better. And that's where high achievers really enjoy being. And actually, many of the businesses that I work in are either excellent at criticising or excellent at praising. Very few are excellent at both. Yeah? And this is about this respect and engagement. I am in a place where my work is valued, but when I don't deliver, somebody corrects me. And notice I said correct. Yeah, I'm not telling anybody off. Yeah? It's about correcting someone when they're wrong. So those are the kind of areas that I'm asking you to think about and look at. And that's a little bit of a sense of exactly what covers each of those areas. So let's think then a little bit about how we actually embed those kind of changes. The first piece of work you need to do is that assessment. And there's a number of ways that you can achieve that. If you're the sole leader in your business, then it's a piece of research that you carry out yourself. And I'm advocating, walk around your business, look at what's happening, make notes, think about those 4 areas. Think about each of those areas and specifically what's going on in all of those things that I've just spoken about. In some businesses we put together change committees, cultural change committees, and we have a person who's representing each of those 4 areas, and we ask them to go and do a piece of analysis on the business, whether they might want to send out staff questionnaires, whether they might want to do interviews with staff, whether they might want to, interrogate the surroundings by walking and looking. But do a piece of work that allows you to understand how your business is delivering in those areas. To say absolutely confidently that you have full knowledge in each of those 4 building blocks. And when you do, then you can pull that together and you need to start asking yourself some key questions. The first question is, how am I faring in those 4 areas? Yeah? Hand on heart, how is this business delivering against those ideas of functional surroundings, consistent expectations, community and acceptance, and then having that respect and engagement? What are your gaps? It's the next question that you need to be asking yourself. Where are we missing tricks? Where are we allowing an environment that isn't successful to seep into the way that we're working? And then the final question you need to ask is, how can I tangibly change this? Yeah? And please remember that this piece of work is just the analysis. This is how you understand realistically what you need to put in place to move your business to a place where the best talent want to work in it. And we all want that, right? Yeah? And when we get the best talent, we'd kind of like them to hang around. And the whole idea of this play, purpose and potential motivation is actually, if you're really, really, really thriving and you've got all 3 of those motivators, you're going nowhere. Because actually, if I'm getting everything that I need from a company right now and in the future, I don't want to move jobs, do I? It's a bit of a pain moving jobs. Yeah, most people find it quite stressful, actually, moving jobs. So you work on this process to maintain them. And then, when you've created your change program and you've created your list, your strategy, your plan of what you're going to do to move to a culture of high performance, that implementation program is a change program. And bear in mind that change is challenging. Yeah, the statistics tell us that 67% of people are actually quite frightened of change. That means that you are probably one of them, law of averages says, and if you are not, some or all of the people working in your business will be one of them. So when you are looking to move your business from one culture to another, you will get resistance. Change is not one single act, it's a process. So you do need to think very, very carefully about how you're going to bring in those changes, how you're going to communicate those changes, how you're going to do it in a scalable and structured way, but you're expecting to get to a different place in the future and moving that along. And if you're able to achieve that, you're able to start to create this culture of success. You have a business that not only has high performance across all departments, this is a sales related content naturally, but it works in every business, every department. You're going to have that high performance. You're going to have really loyal, high numbers of staff retention. You're going to have the ability to acquire really excellent talent. And all of that massively impacts on your bottom line. So you'll have a more effective business too. So that's my roundup of what I think that you need to be focusing on to get a culture of success in your business. And before I finish up and lead you to the final slide, does anyone here have any questions they'd like to ask of me? That's always a good sign. It means you know everything already, right? Love it. Well, if you do have questions that you don't want to ask in a room full of strangers, because that happens too, right? I'm going to be on stand 780 over here very shortly for the entirety of the day. Oh, I got a question there.
Have you had any experience with people within that who are family members within the business?
Yes. That's a brilliant question. Did everyone hear that? No. This is a question about have I ever had any experience when family members are in the business and how it can affect that. The short answer is yes. About 50% of my work is working very specifically doing cultural change programs with family businesses. It's a bit of an area of specialism for me. And there are pieces of work that you need to do prior to trying to bring about any cultural change in order to set a set of permissions and benchmarks around how things are going to work. Because what we first will do in a family environment is do some sort of breakout work with the family members to work with them to understand what roles they're going to take in this, what behaviours they're going to adopt in this, what hierarchy there's going to be within it, and get commitment and permission to act to that. And we also do a lot of work about what we call business behaviour and family behaviour. And I'm currently working with a team of 3 brothers who run quite a big business, and you know their biggest challenge is finding the ability to choose different behaviours in work than they would choose at home. You know, and silly things like, you know, bickering at the sales meetings. Now, you can bicker with your brother around the kitchen table, but you can't do that in your business. You just can't. And so there's a huge amount of work to do around chosen behaviours and getting that all in line first in order that they can drive the change. Yeah, but it's challenging, but fun. Anyone else? Yeah, please.
What's the most common mistake you find businesses making affecting their culture negatively?
What's the most common mistake that businesses make that affects their culture negatively? Honestly, not creating a culture of feedback. Yeah, an environment where there is either no praise or no accountability allows underperformance to thrive. Really, and again I see it. And most people get their head quite easily around the praise stuff. You know, we're not idiots. We all know that thanking people is a nice thing to do. Telling people well done is a nice thing to do. Doesn't happen nearly often enough in business, but we do know it logically. What people tend to feel is that culture of critique, that environment where you are constantly able to say to people, you didn't do well enough there, what I would like to have seen was this and what I saw was this. That's the thing that people believe creates a negative environment because it's a negative activity. But actually, if delivered properly and done well, it's the key to high performance. It's key to it. Good. Anyone else? Good. Well, I'm conscious that the gentleman or lady after me is really going to want me to go away. So, as I said, any questions at all, please come and find me on my stand just over there. I am speaking for my sins another 6 times today. So if you've enjoyed any of this, you'll find me in the workshop area just behind us. If you go to the stand, you'll be able to get access to ebooks that I've written, all free of charge. Go and say hello. There is a lady with a pink clipboard standing in the doorway. Her name is Laura. If anyone would like copies of these slides, a copy of the ebook, just to say hello to a very nice lady, you can do all of those things with Laura or on our stand. And we really, really hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Many thanks.